Today on the Homebrew Challenge, I am brewing up a bold and malty Scottish export. And I have a fun project to completely redo how gas is distributed in my Keezer using these guys. I'm Martin Keane. I'm taking the Homebrew Challenge to brew 99 beers in 99 weeks. And this week it's Scottish Export. Now this is the strongest of the Scottish beers that I've brewed so far. It can go up to 6% ABV. All right, let's talk about ingredients. Now I mentioned this beer can be up to 6% ABV. I'm going to brew this with an original gravity of 1046, which will get us to a 4.5% beer. For me, a Scottish export isn't all about packing in as much alcohol as you can. It's really about more prominent malty and toasty flavors. And speaking of prominently malty and toasty, the base malt I am using for this is Golden Promise. That makes up 88% of the grist in this beer. Now I'm also adding in some Crystal 40, that will be 11% of the grist. And then for the colour, I'm adding in roasted barley, 1 or 2% roasted barley, whatever it takes to get to an SRM of about 14 for the colour. And I'll be mashing the beer at 152 Fahrenheit or 67 Celsius. Now let's talk about my current Keezer setup. What I've got here is I have got on the outside of the Keezer connections for 2 sets of gas. I have a nitrogen connection and a CO2 connection. So those come into the Keezer here and are passed through. Now the nitrogen one just goes straight through to this tubing here and I can connect it to a keg. I'm not doing anything with nitro today. It's the CO2 that's the thing that I want to address. Now what I have in here is a 4-way regulator, and the advantage of this is it allows me to set different pressures for each one of my kegs. So off of this 4-way regulator I have 4 quick gas disconnect posts, and each one of these can be set to different pressures. So I can set one keg to 10 psi, another one to 12 or 15 if I want it to be more carbonated. And I typically have one of these always set at 30 psi, which I use for forced carbonating. Now the disadvantage of this setup, well, there's a few things. One is that this 4-way regulator is huge. It takes up a massive part of my Keezer, which actually I could use for kind of half-size kegs or something if it wasn't there. The second thing is because it is just all the way over there on the far side of the Keezer, it means these cables get really, really long so that they can potentially reach to this other side, and it is a mess. As with all the Scottish beers I've done, it's really only bittering hops that you're going to use. I am using East Kent Golding, and we want to get an IBU of about 19. For me, that means 1 ounce of EKG going in. Beer has come in with a final gravity of 1045. Time to add the yeast. It is the same yeast I've been adding previous times. That is 1728 Scottish ale yeast. So let's pitch that in. And there we go. I'm going to ferment the beer at 68 Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius and then just sort of bump it up near the end of fermentation. All right, that's the beer done. let's sort out this Keezer. Boy, there's a lot of condensation built up in there. Right, everything is cleaned a little bit better now. So time to take the old regulator out. All right, this big, heavy beast is out. Now time to put the new inline regulators in. So what am I using instead? Well, I have these inline integrated regulators, which I was supplied by Kegland. Now these are really clever. So they're called duo-type inline regulator with integrated gauge. That's exactly what they are. So gas comes in through this side, out through the other side. And let me show you this actually with my overhead cam, which I have set up here on my iPad. So now you can see the overhead camera here. So yeah, so gas is coming in here, coming out there. We control the flow of gas with this knob, and then this little regulator here tells us how much gas is flowing through. And these are actually completely removable, so you can pull these out and put different ones in. Kegland say that they do that because this one's a 60 psi gauge. It's pretty small, so if you're just setting between 0 and 10 psi, it's kind of hard to see that. So you could switch this out for, say, a 30 psi gauge. Now, I have got 4 of these and a bunch of other connectors. So I've got this connector here, which is going to slot in. If I go back to my overhead cam here, we can just slot this in so that it really just slots in like that. And now we've got a very solid connection here. Now, let me bring in what I have been building for this thing, which is this. So here I've got all of my regulators chained together, and I just need to add one more, this one. So we're going to slot this one in as well. There we go. So think of these now as the gas is going to come in and flow through each one of these regulators, and then coming out of each regulator here, I'm going to connect this to it. There we go. And on the other end of this, I have these other little connectors here. So I'm going to push this one in, and then I can add in my gas or liquid post or whatever it is that I want to screw in to the bottom of these. I've got a liquid post here, that's no good, I need a gas one, but you get the idea. So this should save me quite a lot of space. It means that I can mount it along my Keezer across the top rather than having everything over on one side. And yeah, I'm interested to see how well this works. So I've got everything mounted now, and then the gas is going to come in through here and just run all the way through to each one of these regulators. Then coming out of each one of these regulators, I have one of these gas posts. Now these gas posts are much shorter than the other ones because the idea now is that this can sort of handle any keg that's in this side of the chest freezer now, rather than making these super long and getting everything tangled up. So I've done that for 3 of the regulators, and then the 4th regulator I've put a longer hose on this one because I'm going to use this one for forced carbonation. So this one is long enough to reach the whole of the chest freezer. Well, that looks a whole lot better. I've just disconnected these because right now I have the main regulator connected to the CO2, and then it's sending stuff in, and I just want to make sure that there are no leaks in the system. So I'm just going to check the main regulator on my CO2 tank for the next few hours. If nothing drops, then I'll start connecting these up. Now the only issue I still have is I still have these very messy liquid lines, but I'm going to address those next week. So this is the third of the series of Scottish ales that we've done, and Lauren, you're going to complete the series with us.
Yes, I am.
So this one is Scottish Export, and let's see what we think about the appearance, the aroma, mouthfeel and so forth. I should say that the other two Scottish beers, I was thinking originally we would like line them all up and compare them. There's nothing left of them. No. We had
They're gone.
We had a neighbourhood party at the weekend, and yeah, that cleared that out. Okay, so from our memory, what do we think about the colour of this beer?
This one got like a golden ambery color to it.
Yep, yeah, very similar to the others, right?
Yeah, similar to the other ones.
Dark brown.
Oh no, I don't smell too much in this one either. I know I didn't smell much on the last one.
Yeah, I think the Scottish Light didn't really have much aroma at all. This one's got a mild, malty, sort of sweet aroma, but it is pretty mild.
Yeah, it's light smelling.
Yeah. Okay, let's go in for the taste. I quite like it. I think it's got a bit of character to it. The Light was pretty inoffensive. This one has a bit more to it. I think there's a little bit on the aftertaste as well,
yeah.
where you can really get some of that malty sweetness. I quite like it.
I agree. No, I like it. I agree that you say there's like a little bit of a sweetness to it. I can taste that, yeah.
So that's it for Scottish beers for now. We're going to come back to Wee Heavy in a little bit, but it's on to the Irish beers next.
Awesome. But before we leave, I have something for you.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I've decided that it is time for Mawson to retire SpongeBob, because I'm sick of looking at it in the videos, and I'm sure you guys are too. So we would like to welcome Scooby-Doo.
Wow.
We have a new one, so here you go.
Well, I appreciate that, yeah. SpongeBob's now got holes in him. He's been with me from the beginning of the Homebrew Challenge, so Scooby can take us the rest of the way.
Yeah, alright. Welcome to the team, Scooby.
I appreciate that. Cheers.
Cheers.